Well, hello, Napa, Oregon. Welcome to my office. I'm sorry I could not be at the meeting. I am actually in the process right now of teaching a class on how to tackle your to-do list. So I am coming to you virtually. I am here to talk to you about the NAPO conference session, Sparkle When You Speak. I really enjoyed this presenter. Cheryl Rausch was the presenter, and she spoke on how to give an effective presentation and to really perfect your speaking skills. So a couple things I want to tell you that I'm going to kind of share with you is I'm going to share with you some information about her tips on creating an effective handout. I'm going to talk to you about that whole fear that people have when they speak. And then I'm going to give you some information on her format that she suggests and why it's a helpful format. And then finally, I'm going to give you a few extra tips that she shared that I think will be really helpful for you. One of the things that Cheryl mentioned that you should always start your presentations with is a handout. So I'm going to share with you my handout that I got from the conference. And this particular handout, as you can see, Cheryl, I don't know if you can see all of it, I'm going to kind of go slow. So Cheryl's comments were that you want to include the logo and or information about the workshop or the session or the presentation that you're giving. You want to put that at the top, and then you want your title of your presentation to be nice and big across the middle of the page. And at the bottom, you should have a nice picture of yourself and then your contact information. The second page that Cheryl said that was a good suggestion was your bio page. Now, as you can see, Cheryl's bio page is very, very long. You may or may not have this long of a bio page. You probably could include your cover page and your bio page in the same page, which would obviously limit your number of handouts, because I'm not personally a big fan of handouts. And so, I kind of have a hard time with the whole idea of giving more information than not, because most of the time people will just go back into their offices, file it away, and never look at it again. Because actually these 2 pages will probably go into the trash as soon as I'm done talking to you today. So I thought that was really helpful. She had an 8-page handout, which was really, really long, but nonetheless, there was some good information in there. So most people, the reason why they're afraid to speak is because they're just the fear. That fear, that 4-letter word, is always such an overwhelming thing for people when they have to speak on a topic. And she gave 5 stages of fear and basically a tip for each stage. And the first stage is just that possibility of being asked to speak, and her tip is to just say yes, and I agree with that. The second fear is during the planning process, and when you're creating the presentation, the fear that maybe you don't know what you're talking about. But Cheryl's encouragement and her tip is to just really do the research, and you'll know what you're talking about, and just have all your facts in place. The third fear is the fear just before you actually give the presentation, and her tip is to just continue breathing. Her fourth fear is during that presentation, just that you might make a mistake, or that someone will ask you a question. This was so great. This was a really good tip. She said if you're in a presentation and someone asks you a question that's a difficult question, her tip was just to ask the audience back. So someone says, let's say, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? And then say to someone else, well, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? And let someone else answer. She said most times people in the audience will typically engage, and you have to really look for those gifts. And so when those opportunities come up, you really have to pay attention to that and use that within your presentation to make your presentation sparkle that much more. And then this 5th stage is really just that final stage. What are people going to think? What are they going to think of my presentation? Did they think I stunk? Did they think I did a bad job? And you just need to get over that. You need to use the presentation as a learning opportunity and grow from that, because the more you do it, the better you get. She gave a bunch of common statistics of reasons why people are afraid to speak and what their fears speak to. And what I thought was really interesting is that in her last percentage, the fear that people think they will sound stupid, that was actually 0%. Nobody ever really thinks you sound stupid, because you're the expert. You're the one getting up in front of an audience to speak on a specific topic. So you know what you're talking about, and you could totally do it. Let's see. The other thing that she said that I thought was really great was she said to really customize your presentation to imagine if you were the person sitting in the audience. What would you want to hear? Create the presentation to how it speaks to you, and that will make your whole presentation sound more natural. So she spoke to people's listening styles and how they listen and how they process information. And if you're not familiar with processing modalities, you can Google it, or you can buy Denslow Brown's book on processing modalities, which is fabulous. But you know what I thought was really neat about that was that when you know the type of audience that you're speaking to, you can really speak to their strengths. So if you know you have a bunch of auditory learners, maybe you have less slides, or if you know you have a lot of people who are very particular, maybe like accountants or something, you want to have, you know, facts and something that they can touch, maybe that are really visual people. So she spoke to that a lot, and I thought that that was really, really helpful. And then finally, she gave a format for a presentation, and she gave you kind of an outline, and it was really helpful because if you've ever had someone, or if you've ever spoken and someone says, I'm going to have to cut your presentation short, it helps to know where you can cut things out. And she speaks a lot to that format. And if you listen to the audio, you'll learn more about that, organizing that presentation and the format. And I think that was really helpful. So finally, the last tip I'm going to give you, which I think was really, really helpful, was Cheryl mentioned that when you're speaking to a group of men, you want to always start your presentation with the facts. They always want to know percentages and statistics, and they always want the facts. And if you're speaking to a group of women, you always want to start your presentation with a story. And I thought that was really true because, you know, women like to hear, you know, a personal story and so forth. So, having said that, I want to kind of finalize and wrap up with I gave you the what's in it for me when I began my presentation. I outlined each individual segment, and now I'm finally closing with enjoy your meeting, everybody. Have a nice day. Bye.